When I started as professor of engineering at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, we started homeschooling about the same time. I quickly understood that in the field of engineering that we lose students all the time because they don't have the mathematics background as they come into the field of engineering. And as we began to homeschool, I started kind of struggling with this. How do we deal with our kids who are in high school, and how do we prepare them correctly? And I started noticing that while there was a couple of students that would do really, really well in engineering and they would do really well in math, that many of them, including the homeschools, just didn't have the math skills. The homeschooling students were superior in so many ways, but they were average, in math. So I started exploring what was going on in that area and started asking our math department, what's the difference? And they were telling me that there are some specific schools that students, when they come in from those specific schools, that they are excellent, that they're well prepared, that everything, that they have the math background. So we started going to those specific schools, and they were public and private schools of what we might call higher end schools. And I started asking those faculty members, the faculty and the administrators of the school systems, what were they doing that made their students superior? And without batting an eye, they all said we use college materials. We don't use materials that are made for the high school market. And again, these were public and private schools. So we started exploring as we began our company that put video courses out for the homeschool market for the high school mathematics. We started exploring options, and one of the things that we did was begin doing what the successful school systems did, is we started using college level textbooks, because we felt the need to fill that gap of what was going on in the homeschool market, actually to prepare people for the STEM, the science, technology, engineering, math curriculum. But as we went down, as we kind of found ourselves and some of our customers were asking for algebra and geometry, you just don't find those kind of textbooks at the college level towards science and engineering. We assume at the university that students that come into the university already have those. So how are we supposed to deal with that in our business? So we did this big giant search, and we just acquired all kinds of textbooks and listened to a lot of people who had a lot of experience in the homeschooling market that had been very successful with their children. Now, there was all kinds of options. Many of them were written for high schoolers. And many of those textbooks that we had just didn't connect the dots for us. I hated geometry when I was in high school. It didn't make sense. Why were we trying to prove, this angle is equal to this angle? It didn't make sense why we were doing that. Until I found Jacob's Geometry, Harold Jacob's Geometry, and some of our customers had sent it to us. And I thought, wow, this material makes sense in the real world. So we were looking for this first for our own children. And I was also looking about how do I deal with this from the university side, and looking about how do I deal with this from our business side. Initially, we refused to use any of those materials because they weren't college material, although there's some universities that were using it. But after looking far and wide at all the materials that were out there, we went solidly with the Harold Jacobs Algebra and Harold Jacobs Geometry, because we knew that with the algebra that he was reaching real students, that the way he talked and the way he did things really connected with the students. A little lighthearted, without bombarding them with tons of problems, but getting the concepts down. And boy, the concepts are so critical. And then as we move into geometry, he connected geometry with the real world and real logic. I mean, the geometry is the basis of logic, what we think of as logical thinking. It's where it starts. And Harold did a great job connecting everything from the world of space, from the world of nature, from science, from medicine, all kinds of these fields he connected in, because every single problem he deals with in his textbook, in geometry especially, deals with real world material. So as we looked at the algebra, and so as we look at the algebra now, we believed in it so much that we recorded our DVD series to fit his algebra and his geometry, because they fit the bill. They're going to prepare your students. I mean, look, there's hope. This is not it's not a problem that can't be solved. Preparing your students for STEM-based science, technology, engineering, math careers. It's out there, and you can be well prepared by starting with these two basics of algebra and geometry.